So Jay Christopherson, man, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Doing good. So thank you for doing this for us. I know you're one of my teammates, and people know that, but you and I have kind of come up in the game together. I feel like
hmm
we met on Accurate Shooter. That's how we
hmm
met, and then one day we just met at the range, and then we hit it off, and we've been friends ever since. And now we shoot on the same team, so it's been great.
You know what I remember from the first time that we were on the range together was at the 2014 Southwest Nationals, I think. And I shot at 800 yards, and when we got down there to the we shot the first relay. We got down there to the pits, and we came running over to look at the water line on my target.
Was it good?
Well, it was a 198 with I think I had something like 8 or 9x or something like that, and I was
it had to be a
I'm sorry,
148.
like a 148. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, it was. I remember I dropped two, and I talked to Shiraz, and I was like, "Is that? I don't know if that's a good score." And he's like, I don't know." And then I was talking to you, and then you came over, and I think you're probably just checking to see where I dropped those points, if they're out to the side or up and down, or
Uh-huh.
whatever.
Uh-huh.
And they were out to the side, but that was my first exposure to more than a club long range match. So.
Yeah, so how let's get started. Well, first of
Mhm.
all, Jay Christopherson, you want me to tell them who you are, or you want to tell them who you are?
No, no, go ahead.
So Jay Christopherson, F Open shooter. Him and I, as he said, we met back in 2014, but we had already met on Accurate Shooter. And Jay had never really traveled, right? Until you kind of went to Burger Nationals. Is that about the time you started?
Burger was the first time I traveled out of the Northwest. Yeah.
And so we met, and we kind of knew each other from the forum, but not in person. Then we met, and we hit it off. But ever since, when did you start shooting with us on the team? 2017?
2017, yeah, because it was at 2016 at Lodi Nationals that we
Right. So
kinda,
2017, 2016, right after the Nationals, I asked you and Todd to come shoot with us, and
yeah.
you guys joined the team at that point. But so anyway, fast forward to what, 20? I can't even keep track of the years now because 2019, is that when you won the Burger Nationals, or 2020?
No,
2020.
I'm sorry. I won the 2020 Burger Top. Yeah, it was 2020. Yeah,
No, we didn't have 2020.
we did. We didn't have 2021.
Okay, like I said, I can't keep it straight. Okay, so 2020,
Yeah,
you win the Burger Southwest Nationals.
yeah.
Of course, 2014 was the first year you've ever been there. In 2015, you want to talk about 2015? I think we have to talk about 2015 because it paints the greater picture for 2020.
So I felt pretty good after 2014, and I was doing okay, and I was shooting a 284 Shaheen at that time, and I went back that summer, and I really worked on load development, and I thought I had a really good load, and I right before Southwest Nationals, I took it to a 300-yard range, and I shot great scores. There's like 19 X's and stuff, but it was like 20 degrees there. And it was running a little slow, and I thought, well, I probably need to bump that up a little. So I bumped it up by 3 grains.
Three
And
full grains?
3 full grains.
Okay.
And because I had kind of a range, and so I bumped it up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 3 grains because I remember complaining to Monty about it. So I got down, but I didn't really think about like temp changes or any of that stuff. I just thought, this is how it's shooting right now, and it's slow by 80 or 90 feet per second, and I need a whole bunch to get back up there. So I got down to Southwest National, and my rifle it shot. So if you look at those scores, I shot in the high master category, but I was damn near to dead last of all F Open shooters. Like it was so bad that I hardly kept it on target, and I actually quit open for the next year and shot FTR because I couldn't get an open rifle to shoot to save my life. That almost broke me.
Wow. So how do you, let's go back. How do you start shooting F class? What's your how do you get to F class to begin with?
Actually, it was through I joined a local shooting club because I was sighting in my hunting rifle, and I wanted to be able to shoot it past 200 yards, right? So I've been shooting at 200 a long time, and I shot what I thought were good groups at 200 yards. And I went down there, and at our club, you have to qualify to shoot on the 600-yard range. You have to take one shot and put it on paper at 600 yards, and they call you qualified.
Okay.
So I went down there and I met up with the guy who ran that session, and so he went down there and I took my shot. I caught the edge of the target board, the full but he's like, okay, you're qualified.
Wow.
You want to take a couple more shots? So I kind of walked it in, and he came back and he said, hey, there's a match this weekend. Do you want to, and there's this class called F class, and you could probably shoot that rifle in F class if you want. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about it, and it was a Rem mag, so I didn't want to shoot that for so long. So I said, but I'll come down and check it out. So I came down and I hung out with the F class shooters, Chris Long, which I think a lot of people might know him. Mm-hmm. He's also a tech shooter on the accurate shooter. So he was kind of the guy who kind of mentored me in the beginning. I watched them shoot for like one relay. And I was like, yep, I'm doing this. So I went home and like I do for anything that I get involved in, I instantly called up a gunsmith and ordered all the parts for the rifle, went to Russ Hayden's and bought all the parts for reloading, and just went from there.
So what was your first reloading press?
I had a Russ Hayden arbor press. First reloading press I ever had. I've never reloaded a thing before I started reloading for F class.
Okay. So you decide to build your rifle. When do you shoot your first F class match?
It was a local 600-yard match. Actually, I have I have it because I keep a record of every single match I've ever shot.
So while you're looking that up, what kind of rifle did you build? What components did you order?
So I built a 6-dasher. And the reason was because that's what Chris was shooting, and that's what the other shooter there were shooting. And at that time, kind of there were two main calibers being shot, right? There's the 6-dasher or 6mm, and then there was the 6.5 284, which was at the time in F Open was kind of the long range, the long range deal.
So when is this? Like what year? We're talking.
This is 2011. So
2011?
Yeah, March 19th, 2011 was my first match.
Wow.
My first score was a 188 4X at 600.
4X. That's hard to do.
So I misdialed the scope. I kept dialing, and Chris came back and he's like, you put together a really great group in that 9 range. So
yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
So 2011 is your first match.
Mm-hmm.
You shoot for about 3 years. So you built the dasher. What components did you like? Hardware. So
I took suggestions from the gunsmith. So I had a Barnard Model P for action, which I actually still like. I thought it was a great action. It was a little heavy, but thought it worked good. It had a 2-stage trigger on it. I had the first barrel I had was I could look it up, but I'm pretty sure it was a Bartlett. Mm-hmm. Because at that time I was trying Bartlett and Krieger were the kind of the two ones that I started out with.
Right.
And I had a March, one of the earlier the older March 10 to 60s.
Yeah. That was kind of the first March scope to hit the market, and they've done well ever since.
That was that was really a great scope. I actually kind of regret selling it. I had bought another one in the interim years, and it wasn't as good as that first one I had. So I don't know why. So you start with a dasher. So mm-hmm. kind of, you had to start learning how to reload, how to shoot, how to. So I didn't know how to do load development. I didn't know how to read a target. I still have my pictures of my first targets. I really, even though I had like Chris advising me, kind of by that time, You know, I think he was kind of winding down anyhow, and so he was moving on to other interests. So, but you know, I really didn't know how to develop a load, right? I just kind of put some powder in there, went down to the range, shot some groups, and you know, went back and changed 2 or 3 things, and then came back down. So it took me a while to find something that actually shot.
Right. So you know, you start, and obviously your first scores are bad, right? How long, and this is 600 yards?
600 yards, yeah.
So how long did it take you to get comfortable to the point that, you know, you started becoming a contender?
I would say it was really 2 years. Like I won my first match the second year I was shooting. It was a local 500-yard match. And it really wasn't till like this, I think the second year of shooting that I started shooting some cleans at mid-range. You know, like that first year I shot 1 clean the entire year that I shot. And then the second year, you know, I shot, you know, like 3 or 4 or 5 cleans, and I won a match. So I felt pretty good. The third year is when I really put it all together. And that's when I had a 6-dasher, you know, again, but a new one chambered by Chad Dixon. I had discovered accurate shooter by that time, so I was starting to understand a little bit about load development. And I'd started talking with people like you online and stuff. So I had a lot better idea of how to develop a load and
right.
what a good load looks like. Because before that, I had no idea.
It's hard at first, right? Because, and I hate saying this, but if you just go by like the books, reloading books or any of that, you're just gonna have a hard time. But you know, especially in competition scene, right? Like, don't get me wrong, a book can get you a pretty good load, but it's not gonna get you a competition load, which is totally different.
Right. And two, you know, you don't really have you don't really know, you know, what it feels like to shoot a really small shooting rifle, right? A really good load. So for me, like, I would shoot sub half minute, right? Or around 3 inches. And my thinking at that time was, well, as long as I'm under 3 inches, I'm good, right? That's sub X ring at 600. That should be fine. And it shot decent scores, but it really didn't hold up at long range at all, even in calm conditions. And
right. So back then, your expectations, half MOA at 600, you were happy. How have they changed with the years? Are they? What are your expectations now? Like, what makes you happy?
I have, you know, for me, I have to be able to put a 10-shot group together at 600 that holds, you know, a quarter minute or less vertical.
Okay. So you know, that's about quarter minute. What about 1,000?
1,000, you know, might sound a little weird. So I use mean radius. I don't know if you're familiar with that, or average to center.
I've heard it, but I'm not an expert on it. So I'll let you explain it to me.
So I'm probably not a very good expert at it at this point either, because it's something I picked up, you know, 4 or 5 or 6 years ago. But it's basically a measure of your group to how close it is to the center of your group, right? How the
So it's almost measuring like the extreme spread of the group.
Yeah, kind of.
It's
the average. It's the average of every shot to the center.
Oh, the average. Okay.
Right. And so, you know, I came up with this number for 1,000 yards that I wanted to be at 0.287 MOA, and I forget exactly how I came up with that number, but for me, a load has to be able to be 0.287 MOA at 1,000 yards, average and mean radius.
Okay.
And so, with a little bit of math, you can extrapolate from 600 to 1,000.
Okay.
And you can do it for 5-shot groups, 10-shot groups, 20-shot groups, and I got all of this out of one of Litz's books. And so what I do is, you know, I shoot at 600, and I shoot a 10-shot group, and I apply the calculation to it, and then I can see what the adjusted 1,000-yard mean radius is.
Okay.
And so that way, and actually it's held up really well for me in terms of load development, because now when I shoot something at 600 and it comes up like 0.277 or .27 versus my .287 standard. I take it to 1,000 and it hangs together right around where I expect.
Okay. Okay.
So I do, at 1,000, I expect to be, for 20 shots, I expect to be, half minute or less. More likely is that, I probably hung one or two a little bit higher, a little bit low, but
right.
Yeah, mostly I want to be kind of in that range.
Yeah, at least for me, I want to be under 5 inches, like obviously under half MOA at 1,000, right? We're talking 1,000 yards, and that complicates things. I mean, obviously we have to, quarter MOA at 600.
Yeah.
Half MOA at 1,000, but that would be like worst case scenario. I don't want to be above, especially during testing, right?
Yeah, if I'm shooting 5-shot groups at 1,000, I'm still looking for that kind of like 1/3 MOA, kind of that kind of a vertical there.
You only look at vertical?
No, I look at horizontal too, but I accept a certain amount of horizontal as being part of the condition. Like I'll look at the condition and I'll go, okay, this is a quarter-minute condition. So if I'm kind of within that, or if I'm a half-minute condition, then I kind of accept a little bit of horizontal inside that.
Right.
If I go to dead calm and I see horizontal, then I'm worried, right? Then I'm definitely doing something.
Well, and what you just said right there, if you're shooting a half-minute condition or a quarter-minute condition, that's something that most people don't understand. Because automatically, any horizontal, they blame it on wind, even if it's a dead calm day. And that's one of those things that you need to be able to weed out.
Yeah.
And just like you just said, you can look out there, you look at the flags, even the mirage, and you can tell, well, there's X amount out there that I need to just let it slide. But bottom line, you have to be honest with yourself, right? If you have dead calm and you have a really wide group, you have to, even if it's super flat, you have to say, well, no, this is no good, right? So, very interesting.
Yeah.
So you 2011 you start shooting. 2014 you finally travel. So what got you into the Cheyenne from the Dasher?
I tried like a 260 Ackley improved, and that was a piece of junk. And so I went looking for what the open shooters were shooting for long range at that time, and they were it was just starting to get 7mm.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was all about improved cartridges and Wildcats, and so I thought, okay, here's a Cheyenne, and it's a little bit faster, and I need that extra speed, and so I thought, okay, well, that's for me. So
yeah. So 2014, you go to Burger Nationals. You do pretty well. You go home excited, and you're like, I'm out. So how did you do in 2014?
I think I want to say I was like 16th overall or something like that.
Yeah, top 20 is great finish.
Yeah,
especially for the first time. So you're pumped up. You're like, I showed up to the big stage, because that is the big stage.
Yeah.
And so you go back home, you're pumped up, and you're like, next year I'm going to show them how it's done.
Yeah.
And that's when you decided to add powder.
I just started
blindly.
Yeah, it wasn't even that. I just, I still wasn't very good at load development even at that time. And so I immediately had 2 new barrels chambered, because I wanted to have 2 fresh barrels ready to go. I wasn't even thinking about nationals yet. And but I was planning to come back to the Southwest National. And I thought, okay, well, I'm probably good enough to shoot with these guys. And really what I did was probably get really lucky. I just started shooting all the local matches, and after every match, I'd make a little bit of a change based on what I thought I saw.
Mm-hmm.
I'd shoot, little 3-shot groups or 5-shot groups, and they'd be tiny, and I go, okay, well, this is good. And then but as it got colder and the thing started slowing down, the group started opening up, and I didn't know why. I just thought, okay, it must be velocity, so I'm just gonna keep adding a little bit more powder in it. And I don't know if I should tell you this, but I was, by the time I was done with that thing, I was shooting it around 3,020 feet per second at the Southwest National.
Wow.
With a 284 Cheyenne.
Don't do that. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. So it It was a little hot.
Yeah, for sure. So you're hot rodding the Shaheen. So
Yeah.
at the time, you were probably. I think we all fall for that, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to let the ballistics compensate for the lack of abilities, right?
Yeah.
I did that too. My Shaheen used to run a 2980. I used to run a Vitavori N560, and I used to run it fast, and it shot well. I mean, but anyway, so yeah, ballistically, we're always looking. At least at the beginning, you're always saying, "Man, if I could get another 50 feet per second," and then you're always running the numbers. At least I did,
Yeah.
and that seems to be a pretty consistent trend with knee shooters. So,
Yeah.
so 2015. All right, we talked about 2015. You didn't have a good finish. let's just say that. And so 2015, you just, like you say, you gave up F open for a year. You were just sick of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I switched over and started shooting FTR for a year, and I actually came up with a really great load for my FTR rifle, and so I was doing really well at local matches. I won a long range regional up here. I think I might have won the long range championship. I can't quite remember, but anyhow, so I won a lot, and time came around for Southwest National next year. I thought, well, I'll just take my FTR rig down there and shoot FTR.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that went okay. It wasn't great. I still don't know exactly kind of why it fell apart, except that I suspect it's because I didn't clean that rifle at all. I know what you're thinking right now.
You waited until the grooves opened up.
Right. Yeah. It started out well, like the Palma. It shot pretty well at 800. It shot okay at 9. I just blew it at 1,000. But the days after that, it was just so up and down, and I was having a really hard time controlling it. So.
Yeah. So 2016, you show up and you shoot TR. That doesn't go well either. Like, where do you go from there? Like, what's your mindset at that point? Are you saying like golf is looking pretty good at this point, or basket weaving or something?
No, I started getting back into into 284. I think that's probably about the time that I started shooting with Todd Hendricks. And he was shooting open, and he was cleaning up at local club matches, and he was starting to shoot a 7mm. And I think I just decided, and actually Gosnell, David Gosnell was killing it with a 284, right? A straight 284. So I thought, I'm just gonna eliminate all the BS, start from scratch, and I'm gonna go with the simplest possible thing I can do, and work up from there. And so that's kind of how I started. I kind of clean slated it. I got rid of everything. I dumped all my brass. I dumped, put all the dies away, sold off all the bullets, and I really kind of started over from scratch there.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've done that too. At some point, you just say, "This is not working." I somehow work myself into a corner, and at some point, you just have to rip off the Band-Aid and say, "You know what? I'm starting over."
Yeah.
And it almost, I find it interesting that you say I'm gonna go to simple.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I got to the point where I had a Shaheen that I was doing great with. I mean, I've never had any issue with my Shaheen. Then I went to a Magnum, a 7 Magnum, and I had to make a Wildcat. And then I went to a 300 WSM, and then I had to make a Wildcat out of that. And then I finally just I was spending way too much time doing everything but shooting.
Yeah.
And then I thought, wait a minute, I'm just gonna go back to the Shaheen. And then I just, like you said, I sold everything off, and just started. I had 2 rifles. I built 2 new rifles and just started fresh.
Yeah.
And that really helped me.
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing, right? That was the point where I sold off my like now the name's escaping me, the actions that I had. And I had bought
Barnard,
Kelby.
the Barnard.
Yeah, Barnard. I had bought Kelby the pandas because that's what I was shooting in FTR. So I bought another panda. So that's what I started out with. And I bought identical stocks for them. I decided that my rifles are going to be identical because at that time I had had rifles that were slightly different, and I bought same exact barrels, and I decided everything was just going to be as exactly the same as I could make it and as simple as I could make it. And I got rid of all of like the crazy prep that I was doing. I was just like the amount of time it took me to load ammo was just insane. It was nutty. So, and I like you said, I started over from scratch.
And so you buy pandas, you build 2 identical rifles. Mm-hmm. Again, simplify, right? You're gonna simplify everything. Yep. So this crazy breast prep that you talk about, what were you doing? Like what?
Oh man, I mean, I was at one point I was weighing cases. I was weighing by H2O. I was inspecting the neck with a 40x power microscope, to figure out why the bullets weren't releasing cleanly or whatever. Mm-hmm. I was deburring flash holes because I read somewhere that doing that was a good thing. It was probably one of those short range bench rest things, which probably works for short range bench rest, or I don't know if they're still doing that, but it's at long range. You're not shooting small enough to see that. I was everything that you see talked about. Oh, I was also, I was wet cleaning all of it, and I was cleaning all my brass for 4 hours. I was trying to get them as clean as possible. Yeah, so all of that, and it just was all adding. It was like stacking tolerance of failure, right? I mean, it was every little thing was combining to.
You didn't weigh primers, did you?
I never got that far. No. I never got as far as weighing primers, but I did get to. I was getting into things like I was checking like the accuracy of my scale constantly to make sure that I was weighing within like 0.01 tenths of a grain and all of that stuff.
So you're doing, again, it seems to be the natural, like I say, you and I came up about the same time, and it just seemed like we were doing everything, right? Because at least for me, I wanted to beat everybody in the reloading room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would spend so much time testing and all that. And it's funny how you and I at the time were not close enough to always be communicating like we are now. But then when we finally became close enough to communicate and became friends, then we realized we kind of went through the same journey, separate but at the same time, where I was like, I'm spending way too much time in here. I'm just going to start weeding out all this crap that doesn't matter. And I went on this journey of testing everything and just eliminating all the stuff that didn't matter. And so tell me about your slimming down your procedure journey.
Wow. Yeah. So, I kind of like you, I kind of came up thinking, well, I might not be the best shooter, but I can win in the reloading room, right? I can buy, the best equipment that I can, lab grade scales and all of these things. I can control every tiny variable. And so, I would do things like when I was loading, like I would check the seating depth on every single round, and I would make sure it was, not off by 0, but exactly 0. And if it wasn't exactly 0, I would try to adjust it so it was exactly 0. I would, when I was weighing out powder, like I would be sitting there and I'd have a tweezer, and if it was a little bit off, I'd pull one out or I'd put one in, so that they were all exactly 0.1, within the weight of one single grain. With bullets, I was sorting bullets. I was doing, based ogive. I bought a Bob Green tool and I was using that. And so I was using every measuring tool. At one point I had every measuring tool there was. I was checking run out on the bullet. I had one of those little guys, those little gauges that checks run out on the bullet. I would, I'd tap it in, So I was creating what I thought was perfect ammo. Like it couldn't be more perfect. And but like the results just weren't there on target. So when I started over from scratch, again, this kind of came. I forget if it was because I talked to David Gosnell or if I saw an interview with him or something. But I talked to him or I heard from him. I'm pretty sure I talked to him. He wasn't doing anything, right? Like, and it was a revelation to me because he's like, clean. But I'm like, well, how do you clean your brass? He's like, what's that? Clean brass?
He still says that.
Yeah.
What's that?
Right. I was like, well, how do you sort these things? And he's like giving me this look. He's like,
and to give context to what he's saying is Gosnell setting records and
right.
winning national championships. I mean, this guy is unbeatable at this time, right?
This is a time when, he would win the Southwest National, then he won nationals, and he might have come back and won Southwest National again or something. I
think he only won it once. Won it once.
But I was there, and this was the turning for me. I was at Deep Creek when he shot the long range national record, that 217.
Uh-huh.
He was 2 lanes down from me. I was 4 rounds on when he was all out.
He was done.
And but he shot a 217, and I think I dropped like 6 on that. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing this right. So, and I'm pretty sure it was at Deep Creek where I got that information from him. And that's kind of when I really just took everything back down to zero and said, I'm not going to do any of that stuff. The only thing I'm going to care about is, my charge weight, my neck tension and seating depth, and we'll start there and see where it goes from.
Right. So you trimmed. So what kind of a concentricity gauge do you use now?
I don't do concentricity. I have one. It's sitting up on the shelf gathering dust. But
yeah, that's when I teach classes. Do what?
Yeah. I tested it one time. I deliberately pushed a bullet out of true by like 10 thousandths or something, and I shot it, and it was right in the middle of the group, and it was like, all right, that's enough of that.
My revelation with concentricity was, I'm gonna say 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Burger Nationals. I think it's 2016. The point is, I was still playing around with this Magnum, and it was such a nightmare. But anyway, I'm sizing all this brass and I'm loading all this ammo. And again, taking forever because I'm doing all these things to this brass, and it's taking forever. And when I was completely done, I literally had a table that was not level, and one fell flat and it started rolling, and I literally saw the bullet go. And I mean, I'm frightened because I just finished loading 400 rounds or whatever, and and then I start measuring them with my bright and shiny concentricity gauge, and I shit you not, 15 thousandths.
Yeah.
15 thousandths of run out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, I'm devastated. So then I'm like, I'm gonna have to pull all these and dump start completely over.
Yeah.
And then I luckily I have a 1,000-yard range, right? And I had this revelation. I thought, you know what? Before I go through all this trouble, go shoot it. Like you're gonna waste an hour. Just go shoot it. And that rifle, I remember, was shooting incredibly well, like 3 inches for 5 shots at 1,000 yards consistently. So I just grabbed a handful of rounds. I go to the range, exact same group, like nothing had changed. And that's when I realized, holy crap. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I don't want 15 thousandths of run out, but that's when I found out. And I took that ammo to Burger Nationals. Yep. And after 2 days, I was leading. I was beating everybody with this ammo that was so sideways. And of course, then I had my infamous. Well, it's not even infamous because I don't want nobody to know about it. But now they're gonna know about it. Where I was leading. And then this wind came up, and I made a wind call, and I hit an X, and then I made another X. That was for record, and I thought I got this, and I went for it, and I dropped 18 points. And Shiraz, on the other hand, he started with 2.8s.
Yeah.
And he put his head down because he just didn't know what to do. And everybody got done shooting. And then when he decided, I guess I better finish this thing, he looked up and the flags were like that. And then he just finished it off. And he went on to win the Burger Nationals. And, it's just one of those things. But the point is, that right there taught me, don't fool with that stuff. And that's when I started going, okay, if that doesn't matter, that is the one thing that people talk about that it's critical.
Yep.
If that doesn't matter, what else doesn't matter?
That doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. That was the turning point for me too. Is if that concentricity, if that measurement did make a difference, what else am I doing that doesn't matter?
Yeah, and I started just trimming processes off my deal, and now I can knock out ammo like crazy, and it shoots better than I've ever shot before.
There'd be a lot of shooters that would be horrified with how I handle and make and deal with ammo right now.
Yeah, well, so when we finally started comparing notes, the one thing that I was still doing that you made fun of me for was weight sorting brass.
Yeah.
And you're like, it doesn't matter. And I said, maybe it doesn't matter, Jay, but it doesn't take me that long. And I just do it one time. And you're like, well, whatever, but it does. And every time it would come up, you laugh. And finally, I worked up the courage to go test it. And like, oh my God, it doesn't matter. I know it doesn't take that much, but
I know.
It's still pointless. I mean, and we are talking about lapua brass, right? I don't know about all the other stuff. So lapua brass. So now you went, not only did you trim everything, now you started going the other way.
Yeah.
You trimmed your process, right? And then you started playing around with progressives, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to, and I think this was probably after Nationals in 2016, right after that, right before Southwest National in 2017. And again, it was just all about like spending time in the reloading room. Like I'm not one of those people who enjoys spending a lot of time in the reloading room. I have lots of hobbies and lots of other things I can be doing. So, once I have a load that I like, I want to make that load as well as I can, but I want to make it fast. And so, I started looking at reloading, and I read an article by I think it was Scott Harris, who wrote on how he was making ammo on a progressive. And I think Christine had just shot really well the year before in 2016. She was third maybe. Mm-hmm. And so I figured, you know what, I'm just going to dive in and do this, and I'm going to make it work. And so I talked to him a little bit, and I made a couple of small changes to my setup on the progressive, and I was producing really, really good ammo. I mean, I was able to make it a lot faster than I could with an arbor die and an arbor press, and it just kind of went from there. So beyond that, I've got into automation. So I've got an auto drive that I use to prep brass and point bullets. I've got the automatic annealer because I like to anneal every time. So I do that. So now, for me, like getting stuff prepped is going out to the garage, starting up the auto drive, starting up the auto annealer, and sitting down to watch football while that stuff processes in the background.
Yeah. So because of you, right? Then F-Class John started doing it, and then of course me talking to you and seeing how you shot, I'm like, all right, I need to get, because I'm the same way. I always tell people when I go into my reloading room to make ammo, I want to make ammo. Like I don't want to be fooling around with anything other than I want to make ammo, and I want to make as much ammo as possible.
Yep.
So yeah, I jumped on the whole Dylan with the auto drive, and my goodness, that's how I prep all my that inch. This is breaking news right now. But that inch and a quarter group that I shot at 1,000 yards, that was processed on the auto drive, with the progressive press. And I never said that before, or maybe I have, but I try not to say anything like that because I know people probably wouldn't believe me. So
I mean, and once you start doing that too, that's kind of, I think, when you're really some of the tolerances that you see out there that people talk about that you have to hold, aren't necessarily true, right? Like when you're processing brass on the progress or on the auto drive, it does a great job. And it is pretty consistent, but it's not definitely not as consistent as doing every single one by hand. But in the end,
Well, I think you and I, not just you and I think most of the top shooters have learned to load in a window, right, or in the node. We have a node for everything.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a powder node and a seating. We have a node for everything. We have a shoulder bump node. We have a seating depth node. We have everything has a node, and a node is just finding a range, a pretty wide range in which nothing matters, and then as long as you're inside of that tolerance, rock and roll, right? And most people want to be exact, which is it's fine, but it just kills so much of your time.
It does. And, I think especially for F class 2 that it's super important. It's more important to be in that node than to have the absolute last mile of perfect load that you can have, right? Like I would rather have a load that's a little bit slower, maybe shoots a little bit larger, but I can trust it everywhere in every condition, versus the one that I know will shoot, slightly smaller, but man, I have to work my ass off to stay in that tiny little window.
Right. It's just less consistent.
Yeah.
So now you go through this journey of just trimming everything that you don't need.
Yeah.
And then, you 2016, right? That's when you joined our team Lapua, Brooks, Borton. And of course now we're comparing notes, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in the team is comparing notes, and how has that helped you, the team shooting, the whole team aspect?
I think it's huge, honestly. And I don't know how other teams operate, but in our team, as you know, like we all trade notes openly, like charge weights, powders, bullets. As far as I know, nobody hides anything.
Right.
And we all tell each other as soon as we find something that we think is difference making. And I think what that did is, like, if you look at from where I was in 2016 at Lodi at Nationals to, I took third that year at the 2017 Southwest Nationals, bronze, right? It was a pretty big jump from where I was at Nationals. And I think a lot of that had to do with, I got notes from Todd, I got notes from you, I had notes from Pat, I had notes from Harp, I had notes from Siebold. And, I saw little things there that people were doing that I wasn't doing, and I just kind of refined what I was doing. And it really, I think it really started, that's when it really started to come together for me.
Right. And it's very interesting how once you start hanging out with kind of like we do, right, on the team, and like you said, we discuss everything openly. Somebody finds something, and we share it, and it's everybody as a team. I mean, look at the individuals. I mean, the results don't lie, right?
Yeah.
2020, when you won the burger, you were first.
Yep.
Who was second?
Pat was second.
And Todd was third, right?
I think Todd was third.
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, and then Todd won the mid range that year, that burger, and then we won the mid range team, and then we took. Team Lapua Brooks Borden took every medal there was.
Yeah.
That is not a coincidence, right? It's we all as a team have helped each other just get better, right?
Yeah, I think if you look just at the individuals on the team, and if you look back to 2016, the point where we all kind of joined the team, and then you look at our individual rise through the score sheets, you see Pat's name now. I mean, national champion, obviously, this last year, but he was second at Southwest National, and suddenly, he's consistently in the top 5. I'm consistently top 5. Todd's consistently top 5. It's just you can see everybody's game was raised.
Right, and we actually have proven that the system works with the new shooters that we bring on. Right, I think to me that's the biggest proof.
Yeah,
because we have of course, we're not going to give it away, but we have the manifesto, right? The manifesto that we give to the niche shooters and say, this is what you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
Follow this to the T.
Yeah.
Call any of us, email us, whatever, but do this.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these guys, I mean, look at David, right? We brought him in. We brought him onto the team. Mm-hmm. And within a year or two, he was third place at nationals.
Yep.
I mean, so obviously that just proves to us that the system that we have works. We just have to implement it. So,
yeah.
So 2016, you joined the team, which you and I have discussed this. Being on the team is critical for success, I think, because oftentimes I don't want to go.
Yeah.
But I got to be there for the team. And if I'm going to be there for the team, I might as well get ready, And then once you get there, it's like working out. At least I hear.
Yeah.
Once you start, it's fine.
Yeah.
So you weed everything out. Now you join the team.
Yep.
Now you have support. Finally, let's fast forward to 2020.
Yeah.
Tell me about 2020, like the match. How did that go? We know the result, but how, like, mentally preparing, how did that go?
So, 2020 was, at that point, I was really only looking forward to the team matches, right? Like I traveled to Southwest National, like the year before I had won bronze, I think. And I had been like top 3 or top 4 of the Southwest National for like 3 years running or something, 17, 18, and 19. But coming into 2020, like I was really just only cared about the team match. And so, but I wanted, so I brought my 2 best rifles because I wanted to make sure I had a good one for the team matches. And, I shot the mid-range like I normally do. I didn't shoot very well. I was shooting next to Todd and just was getting crushed. So I think I took like 30th overall or something, some terrible number. But when we went into long range, I opened up really well with the Palma at 800. I shot a pretty solid 150-12. I was feeling pretty good about that. I think it was 150-12 or 13. And but then we got to 900, and it was really windy. I was on the low side of the low side of the range. I was squatted next to Dan Bramley, and they called time to fire, and I just decided, I'm not going to shoot because I can't read what's going on. I can't figure out what's going on. And I noticed, Bramley wasn't shooting, and that's his range, right? He knows it. And if he's not shooting, I figured, okay, I'm not going to shoot until he goes. And I'm just going to sit here and wait. So he finally started going, and I thought that would be the condition. And I started shooting, and it was just X, 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 X. I got to the end of that. I shot a 150 with 15X.
Wow, you shot 15Xs at 900?
At 900
wow.
in under windy conditions. Like I was holding as much as 3 right at one time. And when I got up off of there, I was like, okay, so I've got a rifle that can shoot here. Mm-hmm. So, I started feeling pretty good about it. And I think I dropped 2 at 1,000 at the Palma. So for the day, I think I finished 1 point behind Pat, and I was second overall. And I've been in that position for the past couple of years. I've done pretty well in the Palma the past couple of years. And then I came in the next day, and my rifle was just hammering. Like it couldn't, how you have a rifle, and even though there's conditions, it seems like it can't miss the X ring.
Oh yeah.
Ring. And that's just what it felt like. And the first relay of the day, it was clean. I was like, okay, 16 X's or something like that. And the second relay of the day, clean. I cleaned the whole day. It's 400 wow. with something. And, at that, but, I had Pat right there on me. I was thinking like, gosh, I've only dropped 2 points this whole time. I've got a pile of X's, but yet here's Pat and Todd still like right.
Yeah, your teammates.
Yeah. And then, we had the team match, which I like having at that time because it gives you a break from the individuals a little bit. And then we came back on Sunday, and Sunday morning was a disaster. Like I laid down there and it's perfectly calm. And I'm just like so anxious to start pulling the trigger because I'm like, oh man, it's just center, center, center. I pull the trigger during siders, and the target goes down and comes back up with 2 spotters on it.
Oh.
Right at 12 o'clock, and one's in the 9 ring, one's in the 10 ring. I'm like, oh, damn it. So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll shoot again. So I shoot again, it goes down. It comes back up with 2 spotters again.
Oh.
I'm like, what is going on? So that happens about 3 or 4 times in a row. And I've called the RSO down, and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, getting upset and flustered, and like, just find out what's going on. I don't know what to do. And here's, Pat and Todd next to me, and they're like 8 on already, just
tearing it up. Yeah.
And so, I finally decided that, I'm in the X ring, and they have to give me the better value. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to keep shooting. If it comes up with 2, I'm just going to assume that's me in the X ring. So I just went for it on the record, and I started shooting X's and 10s. And it wasn't a particularly great score, but it was clean. Mm-hmm. Like it was 9X. And so once I got past that, I was like, okay, this is mine. There's no way after that. There's no way that Karma loses this match for me. So
right.
And then I think on the last relay of the day, I had a point and a pile of X's to give. And, Pat, to his credit, he cleaned it on the last relay of the day. I had no idea, though, but I knew I had a point to give. And I think I dropped a 9 on the first shot for record. And that was my point to give, right?
Wow.
And so I cleaned it from there. And when I got up, I had heard Pat cleaned it next to me. So I was like on razor edge the whole time.
Wow.
And I think I missed Gosnell's record by 1X. So.
Wow. That's crazy. So obviously, just what does it take? What does it take to win mentally?
I wrote a little bit about this. So specifically going into the 2020, like I'd been reading up like on mental game and read about visualization, and so I was doing those things. But the key for me going in, I think, to 2020, once I kind of realized that, I had a good rifle and I started to get invested in the individuals, I thought about winning the whole time, like from that 900-yard match all the way through. The whole time I was just thinking about not necessarily what other people were doing, but just about what it was going to feel like to win. The fact that I wanted to win this thing, like I didn't try to go through the whole like, well, I'm not going to keep track of I knew what other people were doing. I just knew I couldn't do anything about it. So,
right.
The only thing I was focused on was trying to hit an X with each shot. And I don't know, that was just kind of the whole mental game. And I think if you want to win, like you kind of have to have that mentality, right? You have to have the mentality of the last shot never happened. It's you hear about it in football all the time, like the last play just is the last play, and now we just focus on the next play. It's kind of the same thing in shooting.
Well, they call it feast and forget.
Yeah.
One of those mental coaches says feast or forget. If you shoot a bad shot, forget about it. Feast on the good ones, because whatever you focus on, that's what's going to keep happening, right?
Right. And that's what I was focused on, whether deliberately or accident, was just those good shots. And honestly, it all clicked on with that 900 round that just kind of came out of nowhere.
Right. So you win the Burger Nationals 2020. Your teammates are right there. Mm-hmm. Did that at any point give you second thoughts about sharing information on a team? Because you're like, holy crap, this seems like. Because, so you guys are all operating under the same knowledge, right? Pretty much.
No, honestly, and I truly mean this, whether it's Todd or Pat or you or whoever is on the team that wins or beats me, like I want to beat those people, but if I'm beaten by anybody, I want it to be someone on the team.
Right. I feel the exact same way. And I think that's what being on a team, at least it does for me, and obviously, as you said, it does for you as well. It almost gives you seven chances to win. At
Yeah.
least that's the way I look at it. I'm like, now I have seven chances to win because if it's not me, as long as it's one of my teammates, I'm freaking happy. You know.
Yeah.
So that just increases my chances of winning, and it's to me that's been one of the greatest things I've ever done in the sport is join a team, and be surrounded by just top level shooters that are just not only are they great shooters, they're great friends, and they really put in the work. And man, when they win, well, when you won,
Yeah.
it's just everybody. It's just like I said. Now I have seven chances to win.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, if anyone's going to beat me, if it's someone on the team, as much as I might have wished that I would have won, I'm happy that it's them.
Right. So, what about equipment? Let's talk about equipment. How has you talked about your bar nerds, and then you went to the pandas. I remember you must have been the first person I've ever showed that Borden action to. When Jim Borden, he reached out to me, wanted me to take a look at his action, and so anyway, I built the rifle 2015, I think it was, and I brought it to Berger. I showed it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me what happened when you saw it.
Yeah. So I remember you had that thing in the back of your car, and you're like, "Hey, come check this out." And you're like, "This is the smoothest action you'll ever run." And I think I ran it a few times, and then about that was like at the beginning of the day. At the end of the day, I had my pandas posted up for sale, and I'd sold one of them, and I'd had an order in with I think I already had an order in with Jim. No, did I buy one of
You bought Greg's Taylors.
Yeah, it was number 3. You had 1 and 2.
Yeah,
and
I had 1 and 2, and you got 3. And
yeah, it was one of my Taylors, right?
So obviously, gear has always been one of those things that you have never doubted that you need to have good gear.
Yeah.
Right, because I mean, you have the custom actions, you have the the stocks, like you said, everything similar or the same, as close as the same as possible.
Yeah.
Barrels. So why did you start shooting Bruxes? Did it because now you're sponsored by Brux, but were you shooting Bruxes before, or had you tried a Brux?
In 2017, when I took 3rd at the Southwest National, I was shooting a Bartland.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the end of the life for my Bartlands at that time. And then after joining the team and I had some Brux barrels, I'd started working up Brux barrels after that. And when I went to nationals in 2017, after the Southwest National, this was after Worlds. Worlds was the last place that I shot that Bartland barrel.
We're not going to talk about Worlds. Don't worry.
I don't want to talk about Worlds. But nationals was the first place that I'd shot that Brux. And, you should remember well as well when you and I took 2nd and 3rd. And, I was that barrel was just a hammer. And then ever since then, I've been shooting just the Brux 4 groove, 9 twists, 32-inch finish.
It's amazing how simple they are, but how good they shoot. You know what I mean?
That, and I appreciate the consistency, right? So I almost always, I have 2 loads basically that I shoot, and one of them is going to shoot for me. Mm-hmm. And with the Brux barrels, it's one of those 2. I know it's going to be one of those 2 loads, and so that way I know I can pair up barrels when I travel, because I take 2 barrels that I know will shoot the same load or as near the same load as not to make a difference.
Right. So you win the 2020, and mm-hmm. Again, gear. So gear is obviously important, right? Where would you place gear versus talent? I guess that's where would you place one compared to the other, or percentage wise?
I think in open, I think gear plays a bigger role than it does in other kind of disciplines, right? Like more than FTR, maybe more than PRS or something. just because I think that if your gear's not working, and especially in F Open, it doesn't matter how good of a shooter you are, you're probably not going to win. Like, because our matches are decided by like the tiniest of amounts. And
Well, just like you said, in 2020, you won by X's. Like, you didn't even win by points.
I won by X's, and you just can't give up. You can't give up that edge that having good gear gives you. So, I think some people might be surprised at like what I consider like to be the most important parts of your gear, which are maybe not necessarily always the rifle itself or the parts of the rifle, but I think it all plays together to have a setup that, you know, works as well as it possibly can.
Right. I mean, you have to spend money on gear, right? I mean, that's just part of the game, right?
Yeah, that's just you have to understand that getting into the game, that if you want to be competitive, especially in open, that gear is just part of it.
Yeah. So tell me about your earmuffs, since you like spending money on gear.
Todd told you that story, didn't he?
So you gotta tell it.
Cheap Chinese earmuffs. I don't know what to tell you. Fall apart. You set them gently on the ground. They fall to pieces.
So what happened?
Oh man, it was 2016 at Lodi, and I had a really good final day. Like I think I won the ag for that day, but I had a really rough opening day. And it was pissing me off because Todd was doing really well, right? And Todd and I have kind of always been right there at equal level for everything we do. But for whatever reason at Lodi, he had a handle on it, and he'd come off the line, and I'd be like, "Hey, what'd you drop?" And he's like, "I dropped like 2." And I'd be like, "I dropped 6." So I was just pissed off because I couldn't figure it out. And when I was headed to drop my gear off, I couldn't get the handle off my Neo. Like, it just wouldn't come. So it was just like the last straw, right? And I was just, that's it. And my earmuffs fell apart. So there still might be a piece of them laying in Lodi's parking lot somewhere.
But those are the ups and downs, right, of the game.
Yeah.
There's been times where I've been super frustrated. I mean, F-Class John told me his story about, the Nationals, where he literally was in tears, like literally in his car going, "I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done with this." You know what I mean? And then
yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Well, and then the next thing, you winning the Burger Southwest Nationals, which is one of the biggest matches of ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's awesome. And then of course, 2021, and you're on the U.S. rifle team, so just a lot of good things have happened since 2015 when you gave up F Open, right?
Yeah, and I still like I think probably people who shoot around me will tell you I'm probably one of the more emotional people on the line when it comes to shooting badly. But I try to get over it fast. So that's kind of. But yeah, it's since 2015 through now. It's. And again, I point to joining that team, where I really think that and the conversation with Gosnell were kind of the two big things that kind of got me on the right trajectory. And the key, I think, to that conversation with Gosnell was I listened to him, right? And I said, you know what I'm doing doesn't work, so I'm going to do what he does.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Yeah, oftentimes the answer is right there. People
Yeah.
are giving them to us, and we're just so hard-headed that we're like, no, there's no way that works. And then you just write it off without even trying it, So,
right.
All right, Jay.
Yeah.
This has been very interesting. I appreciate you doing this. So, what's one thing that's helped you? I mean, but like, if you had to say one thing, like one thing that you would say to somebody coming up in the game or something, say, look, this is the one thing that has helped me, or this is the just one thing, if there happens to be one thing.
I think probably learning to read the wind, and I think team has a big part of that. So joining the team, actually, that goes right back to joining the team. The one thing that I think really changed everything was joining the team.
Join the team.
Being with a group of people who will share information.
Right. Well, otherwise they're not a team, right?
Right.
They're just the co-shooters.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah,
Jay. All right, you have to nominate somebody that I need to interview next. Like you think it would make a good interview. I have a pretty good idea, but
that's a good question. I think you should try to get Gosnell on.
well, that's like I said, I had a pretty good idea. Just because I think to tie all this in, that would be a good person to interview. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
I think he will have. I think he kind of blazed the trail a little bit for some of the things that really have been shown to work in the 284. So.
Yep. All right, man. Jay, thank you. I know this is gonna help a lot of people, and I will see you on the line.
All right. Yep. See you.
All right. Take care, Jay. Thank you.
And I